What's going on, guys? Josh here from Momentum Productions. I'm a filmmaker here based in Los Angeles, California. So if you want to learn some awesome tips and tricks on filmmaking, make sure you're subscribed with those notifications turned on. But other than that, let's get right into this video. Today, I'm going to be showing you how to do this effect. Basically, what we're going to do, we're going to take an object and make it see-through for parts of a clip. This effect is specifically important for those of you who shoot a lot of product commercials or product reviews. So basically, half of this effect comes from shooting and half of this effect comes from editing. So here's a product I'm going to be showcasing in today's video. This is an HD transmission system from Portkeys, and basically what's going to happen is I want to show the contents inside of this case without necessarily having to open up the case. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a shot of this lid closed and another shot of this lid opened. And this is actually going to get very technical, and it's very important that you get this part of the filming process right. To give this shot a little bit of more movement and dynamics, I'm going to be using a motorized slider. This is specifically important for accuracy, and it's going to help us out a lot in editing. Now I'm going to set up my slider, and then I'm going to hook up an HD wireless transmission system from Hollyland. This is the Mars 400S, and I'm going to tell you why I like to use an HD transmitter in just a moment. But anyway, let's set up the slider, let's program it, and I'll show you my settings for the slider as well. Now, before I get to programming my slider, it's really important to have this set the way you want it to look. So I want to make sure that I position this case in the perfect area, and also consider that your slider is going to be moving side to side, so you need to make sure that it's properly positioned off to the center. So here's how the setup currently looks. Obviously the lighting doesn't look great because of this extra light I need to light up to show you guys the slider and everything. But anyway, make sure that you have your grid turned on in your monitor or in your camera. The more grid lines you're going to have, the more accurate your position is going to be with your object when we reshoot the same shot but with the case opened up. I know that sounds a little bit confusing, but as we go on, it's going to make much more sense. So notice how this grid mark here is in the corner of the case. All right, we want to remember that when we reshoot this shot with the case opened up. Okay, here I am behind the slider. For those of you who are interested, I'm using the Cinetics Lynx 3-axis slider. It has a slide motor, pan and tilt motor as well. I reviewed it right here, and I'll leave a link for you guys to check out in the description box below. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start programming the sliding move. So the case is basically where I want it to. It's off center. That way we have some space to play around with our slide. So I'm gonna slide to the left. Okay, that's my start point. And I'm gonna slide to the right. I wanna make sure that I have the same amount of dead space on the left and right of the slide. So that's another reason why you should definitely be using grids to help you out with spacing. So I'm gonna mark that as my endpoint. Then my runtime should be around 16 seconds. This is a very short amount of room for the slider, left to right, right to left. It's a very, very small amount of distance. I'm gonna enable bounce, which will make the slider loop back and forth, just in case I like another shot better. I'm gonna let it run through multiple takes. The ramping up speed, I'm gonna mark at 12%, just so it eases in and out of the slide so we don't get any jolts. And then we are going to click on run, and the slider will do the rest. Okay, so now we got the shot with the case closed. Now let's open up the case. All right. Now it's important to remember where you position the case on your grid lines, so it's okay that I move it around because I remember exactly where I positioned it. Great, so now we're gonna get a shot of the case opened up. Remember, for this shot, the sliding move has to be exactly the same and in the same exact position. And I'll explain to you why when we get to the editing portion. Now, if the lid doesn't want to stay open on its own, just help prop it up, but try to not see your hand in the shot. And having an HD video transmission system is actually really convenient because, as you can see, the slider is placed in the corner in the back here, and it's not that convenient to have a cable dangling around connecting to a monitor. So I like to move my monitor around, and it's great to have that wireless option. So here we are inside Final Cut Pro. I'm gonna go ahead and drag and drop the first clip. This is of the case being closed. And then I'm gonna find the case being opened, and then I'm gonna drag it right on top. First things first, I want to line up both clips right as the slider starts to move. So let's work on that. So in this shot of the case being opened, the slider will start to move right about there. So I'll trim everything before that. And then I'm going to go to the other clip of the case being closed, and the slider starts to move right about here. Okay? Another thing you want to make sure is that the slider moves in the same direction for both clips. Otherwise, this effect won't work. On the top clip, we have the slider moving to the right. Good. On the bottom clip, we have the slider also moving to the right. Now what we're gonna do, we're gonna try our best to line up the clips right on top of each other. So the best way to do that is to go to the top clip, go to opacity, and make it 50%. And this will help us out with fine-tuning and positioning the clips. It's close, but we can do better. So let's line it up a little bit more accurately. You should be asking yourself which clip stops first. You want to line up the start and end points, and that's how you're going to get an accurate positioning of both the top clip and the bottom clip. So what I'm doing is I'm enabling each individual clip. That way I can see which clip starts or stops earlier than the other. It looks like I kind of misjudged how I positioned my case. The grid lines helped, but I wasn't as accurate as I could have been. As you can see here, we have the cases not lining up from when it was open and being closed. But good news is that we can still work with this. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna draw a mask and select a little piece of the internals of the case. So I'm gonna disable the bottom track, which is where the case was closed. I'm gonna bring back full opacity of the opened case, and then I'm going to draw a mask. So I'm going to go to my effects, type in mask, drag and drop the mask onto the clip, and then we're just going to draw out the outline of what I want to select of this clip. Then connect the dots. Great, once the mask has been drawn, we basically selected a piece of that clip, so I'm gonna enable the bottom clip. And now we're gonna work on the animation. So as you can see here, it just doesn't align with the case. I'm gonna go to transform and move over the masked clip over the case just so it's positioned properly as if the case was opened. All right. Next, we're gonna add a little bit of a feather just to make it fit perfectly. Then if we add the opacity, look how good that's looking. Now we just have to animate it as I said before. So that's what we're gonna do. So we're gonna go back to transforms. We already made our first keyframe of that mask animation. I'm gonna go to the end of the clip, and instead of dragging it over, I'm going to play around with the X-axis and just do that. Boom. That looks good, guys. Nice. We are really close here. It's looking great. Now we need to adjust the mask a little bit here, just so it doesn't overlap on the closed area of the case. Now it's also very important that when you're shooting the shot on a slider, make sure the slider is set at the same pace for when the case is closed and opened. That way we can easily animate the mask. Now let's animate the opacity. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to the top clip, right click, show video animation, and I'm gonna drop down the opacity so that it just completely disappears. I'm gonna hit the option key, make a keyframe, one here and another one here when I want the open part of the shot to pop in. drag it all the way up. Maybe not all the way up, maybe about, let's say, let's do 50%. Okay, just so we can see the internals of the case. I'm actually bringing it up a little bit more, just like that. And this is really unique because we still see the outside shell of the case and we see what's inside the case. So I really love using this effect. And then we can drop down the opacity and animate a fade out. So this is the overall effect. And just like that, guys, we're all done. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Peace!